everyone, and welcome to Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. In this, our November 6th, 2023 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including the end of Superman and Lois. We're going to be talking about some of the stuff, Emmy Awards for some of the Superman, or a Superman animated movie. We're going to talk about the latest comic books, stuff happening in the real world, and so much more. We're also going to turn to you to ask for your questions and comments on any particular Superman topic you would like to discuss. And to let you know how all that works and how you can get involved in tonight's show, let me introduce you to my favourite co-host, Michael Bailey. Hey, Mike.
Your favorite. Okay. This is much like my dad saying I'm his favorite son. I'm his only son. It's at least I'm winning. I guess it would be worse if he said, "You're not my favorite son," and then I have to start wondering things and questioning, the very fabric of reality. No, I'm doing fine. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I saw that you've got some interesting things happening in your work life that seem to be coming around full circle again.
Yeah, and that means something that was probably going to happen at the end of the month is not going to happen anymore, or at least get delayed another month. So, yeah, it is what it is. I wish I could quit, just do this full time, but it doesn't pay.
Don't we all?
At all. And that's not a shot against you. It's just it's very hard to make money doing this.
Yes, exactly.
We could probably make a lot of money if we just, started saying things like women have no business being in comics. We could make a heck of a lot of money for that. But I like being married, and I think you do too. So, anyways, they don't want to hear about that. They want to hear about Superman because this is a Superman homepage. It's a Superman homepage live, and we want to hear from the Superman fans watching us live right now on a variety of platforms. It used to just be YouTube. Now we're everywhere. And how do you do that? Well, it's real simple. You go to supermanhomepage.com/live and press the Call Now button. There you'll be put into the really cool green room. You can watch the show. Or if you want to use your smartphone, you can scan the QR code right next to me. If you are using your computer and are using an external speaker to watch Superman Homepage Live, please mute that when we have you on because we're on a bit of a delay. And if you use your phone, please use a headset of some kind because the speakerphone doesn't work very well.
Indeed. And if you're a little bit shy and don't want to get on the phone tonight and just still want to participate, you can participate in the comments right there on YouTube and Facebook. Fans watching the show live can ask questions, post comments. Michael and I will keep an eye on that and we'll react to them as we need to. But if you want your question or comment featured on the screen live during the show, that's called a super chat on YouTube. All you do is click the dollar symbol, a slider will appear on your screen. You decide on the dollar amount you're willing to donate. We will feature your comment or question live on the screen. It's a great way to support the show. There's also super stickers and super thanks. And speaking of supporting the show, thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham and John Patrick Van Pelt. If you want to join those fine folks and support the show, you can click the join button there on YouTube, or you can go to patreon.com/Superman homepage. There are different levels of memberships with different levels of perks. You can just tip in for $1 even, and that helps. We appreciate any donations we get because, as Michael says, it doesn't pay doing podcasts. You have to kind of, beg, borrow, and steal to keep things afloat.
Yeah, I have to dance for people. I was about to make an OnlyFans joke, but I decided against it because that's actually a legitimate way to make money. So,
what we could do is we could go back through an old podcast and digitally enhance it and add backing vocals and other instruments and then re-release it and make millions of dollars and maybe go to #1.
We could do that, or we could go back and add dewbacks and more stormtroopers, and just re-release it like that. Yeah. So
anything works. I mean, the Beatles have knocked off Taylor Swift at the #1 spot on the charts.
Yeah, but it's the Beatles. I mean,
come on, don't sell yourself short.
Though I will say this: a friend of the show, Bob Fisher, was talking recently because he's a huge Beatles fan as well as a Superman fan. Apparently, Beatles fandom is like ripping itself apart right now. So I'm just glad that it's not our family doing all of the arguing right now.
Yeah.
And like the Beatles fans are like taking the pressure off of us. So there you go.
Yes, indeed. As a Beatles fan myself, yeah, I love the song, but I guess everyone's got their opinions, and there are George fans, and there are Paul fans, and there are John fans, and Ringo fans, and sometimes they don't always see eye to eye. But nevertheless, we aren't a Beatles show here, as much as I'd love to talk about the Beatles. We are a Superman show, and while the Beatles and Superman have had a fair bit in common over the years, the Beatles were big Superman fans. Love the Jimmy Olsen comic books. There's a number of photos out there of them having Jimmy Olsen comics on their keyboards, and John Lennon wore a Superman shirt on the cover of one of his books. So yeah, there's
Richard Lester directed both Beatles films and Superman films, so you got that going for it.
So yeah, there are connections, but then there are connections with Superman in every walk of life. As you will see on our Twitter and our Facebook and other social media accounts, we're always posting daily calendar days about, I think it was National Donut Day the other day, and of course there are connections between Superman and donuts. I mean, especially on the Supergirl TV series. So every day there's a national holiday, and there is a Superman comic book cover or image or something that will connect to anything and everything. As you always say, Michael, it always comes back to Superman.
It does, indeed.
All right, well, let's get into tonight's discussion topics, and we start with movie news like we always do. And Justice League Ruby Superheroes and Huntsman Part 2 is now available. I don't know if I mentioned it last week that it was coming, but it's now on 4K and Ultra HD and Blu-ray. It was originally out digitally only, but now it's on all formats. I still haven't seen Part 1 or Part 2 yet. It's not really in my wheelhouse, even though Superman is in it, but I will get around to seeing it sooner or later.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I mean, I'm sure there's fans of Ruby. I'd be interested to see what they think of it more than anything else. I just don't want. There's so much to watch, Steve, and it's just not. There's not enough time in the day. I mean, Justice League Warworld came to HBO Max, and I still haven't watched that.
Wow.
So it's just
yeah.
It's just. I just need a less stressful job, and then I'll be able to watch all these things.
That's so true. Not enough hours in the day, as you said, and there's so many things to watch. I'm finally catching up on Mark Miller, or Miller World's, what was it, the Jupiter's Legacy, or whatever that one is, where he's a superhero. Finally catching up on that. Because Mark Miller and I go way back. Like, he used to write Superman comic books back in the day, and we used to email each other all the time, and met him at a comic convention.
Really?
Yeah, so I think it was San Diego Comic Con, the only time I've ever been there, way back in the old fandom days. And he was signing comic books. There was a massive line, and I just went to the head of the line just to see who it was. And I realised it was Mark Miller, and we'd always been chatting through emails and stuff back when because he's a big Superman fan, obviously. And he saw me at peeking around the line, and he got up and shook hands and had a chat, and the people in line were pissed off, like, who's this dude? Just line jumping, and that was really nice of him to do that. So, but I mean, obviously in recent years he's gone on to much bigger and better things, and we've lost touch in that way, but I'm sure he'd still hopefully stop and have a chat if we ever did meet up again.
Yeah, ask him to come on the show and talk about a Superman pitch. That would be interesting.
That would. It's funny because back then at that San Diego Comic Con, this would have been like 2001, I'm thinking.
Okay.
He even introduced me to Grant Morrison, who I had no idea who he was, and I couldn't understand. Or they were. I couldn't understand a word they said. Being, with the thick. I mean, they're both Scottish.
It is. Yeah, I was about to say that the thing I love about Mark Miller is that every sentence he says sounds like a question, and it's just how he talks.
Yeah.
and it's like one of those things where I feel kind of bad because he wrote really good Superman stories.
Mm.
Like really good. Like his Superman adventure stories and the couple issues of action and such that he wrote like randomly at the late 90s was really good, but it just they weren't selling. So then he hits on things like the Ultimates, and he does his own he does his creator own things, and it's and goes on to have one of his properties. He takes more money but less control, and then decides, nope, it's a little more important to have the control, so he takes less money for it. But um, I disagree with certain creative decisions he's made, but I cannot fault the man for going where the money is
Yeah, he's
in
created his
this
own
industry.
universe with Millerworld and done so many different things. So yeah, hats off to him. Yeah, that's just a little anecdote there. But so getting back to our topics, I was surprised and happy to see that a Superman property has been nominated for an Emmy Award, with Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons receiving a nomination for the second annual Children's and Family Emmy Awards for sound mixing and sound editing for an animated program.
It's on one hand, like you're like, well, why not writing? Why not performance? But on the
Mm.
other hand, winning Emmys for the technical part of it is just as impressive and just speaks to the quality of the work. So I just I know there are people out there that kind of poke fun at that, but anytime something like this gets an Emmy nod, at least even just nominated is impressive.
Mm.
So I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, so we haven't got any details as to when those ceremonies will take place, but yeah, it's up against Disney's I Am Groot, Netflix's Kung Fu Panda: The Dragon Knight, and Nickelodeon's Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Star Trek Prodigy. So some big properties there, but sound mixing and sound editing is not something that I have any familiarity with, as far as what is good, what isn't, when it comes to animated films. But I wish them all the best.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you don't notice, they did a good job.
Yeah,
If it
that's
sounds completely natural, then whoever is behind it did exactly what they were supposed to do.
yeah, indeed. So that's the movie side of things. But the big story of our week was the news, and I guess it was not a great surprise. It's a little disappointing, obviously, but Superman and Lois will end with its fourth and final season.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not surprising, but it is really disappointing. But the writing was on the wall. When they cut the budget and let go of most of the cast and start let go of people behind the scenes too. It's just I think the CW just when it was sold just became something different. I'm seeing a lot of people talking about how it's sad that this is kind of the end of DC TV as begun. Okay, as begun, depending on who you want to talk about, either as begun with Smallville or as begun with Arrow. Um, I do think I do agree with the person, and I didn't notice who said it. Said that it is kind of that the last DC show on the CW should be a Superman show since it started that way with Smallville. Uh, but it was a top tier show.
Mm-hmm.
There were episodes that I didn't like as much as others, but it's not like any of them were bad. It's not like objectively the show ever got to the point where I thought they had jumped the shark or just do what some of these superhero shows do, where they just make creative decisions because they're trying to shake things up and they don't always land. I think because they had shortened seasons and because they took such care to make it cinematic, the show Superman and Lois stood out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just makes it that much more special.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry to nostalgic podblast in the comments. Had not heard the news of of this, so
Oh,
um, yeah, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Um, Diner Guy saying he's a little surprised the show is as beloved as it is. It really isn't very comic book accurate or a typical superhero show. It is kind of comic book accurate at the moment because Superman is a father,
Yep.
and I think that's what sets it apart is that it isn't as in line with some of the other stories that we've seen. It's its own thing. There aren't other superheroes in this universe. Superman is the only one. He's got twin sons instead of just one son. Uh, he's moved back to Smallville. I like the differences. I like that it sets itself apart, and I like that there are no other superheroes in this world other than Superman.
Yeah, the best thing this show did was set it on its own Earth, and keep it separate from uh, the other
Properties.
CW shows.
Mm.
I think Crisis really, once Crisis was done, I think the CW verse as a whole was pretty much done. And you really can't. What do you do as an encore, right?
Yeah.
You've done this really cool thing. You've said goodbye to the hero that ostensibly started that particular kind of universe.
Mm-hmm.
You had references to all these other shows and other DC programs. You got to bring Brandon Routh back and give him closure, making it kind of like No Way Home for what No Way Home did for Spider-Man. Um, so having it be its own thing, I think, allowed it to stand on its own and be something really different. And the fact that it said too much of a drama, in all honesty, that's what gets the mainstream audience. I,
Mm.
I, I think we as comic book fans kind of tend to forget that sometimes mainstream audiences don't care about the things that we care about. They don't care that it's not 100% comic book accurate. They just recognize that it's Superman on the screen doing things that they think Superman should do, and the fact it's a lot like Smallville. Smallville was a teen drama on a network known for teen dramas. And that is why it was able to grab as wide of an audience and be as popular as it was. We can argue all day long about the fan service and were they making fun of the fans, were they just stringing us along, how many, should it have ended earlier, should he have become Superman like within the show. But the fact of the matter is that show was on the air for 10 years and started at a time where comic book properties were not popular. And so now you've got Superman in 2021, the when this show started, when Superman and Lois started, and he was kind of at a low ebb.
Mm.
I hate to say it, but the comics were just starting to pick up again, and kind of get out of the slump that they were at the end of the Bendis run. And cinematically, he was dead. They were not at that point even remotely considering doing a Superman sequel with Henry Cavill.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then this show comes along, and I think it was kind of a lifeboat for Superman fans. Much like in 2016 when Tyler Hoechlin was introduced on Supergirl, and was kind of a lifeboat for me personally because suddenly there was a Superman out there that I could kind of latch on to. So I'm sad that it's ending, but it's one of those things where I'd rather it go out and go out strong than limp along and start having those seasons where you're like, this show just needs to end.
Mm. Mm. Or not, or get cancelled without them being able to
Yeah,
have the time to end it properly. So at least this way, with
yeah,
the final 10 episodes, they're able to go out on their own terms. I have seen a number of comments, and even in our own stream here, where people have said, "Oh, maybe it'll get picked up on Max." The showrunners have said, "While we're sad to say goodbye to Superman and Lois at the end of season 4, we're grateful for the time we've had with our amazing cast, crew, visual effects teams, editors, musical geniuses, and writers." So they are under this, they understand that the show's ending with season 4. They're not looking to further it down the track with anything else. They're finishing it off season 4 on the CW. They're not looking to have it restart somewhere else on a different network. And it's interesting, as Patrick in the comments notes, how many TV shows have we had, Superman-related TV shows, that have gone for exactly 4 seasons?
This would be number three. Yeah,
Yeah. So you had
because you
Lois and
had
Clark went four
Superboy.
seasons, Superboy went four
Yeah.
seasons, and now we have Superman and Lois. So no Superman TV show has gone less than
Uh,
4 seasons.
on a technical level, we could say The Adventures of Superman in the '60s because the last four seasons were half of what the seasons had been.
Hmm.
So it comes out to four seasons worth of episodes. Um, but yeah, it's just I like the fact that if it's a Superman show, it's going to go a certain amount of time.
Hmm.
Uh, at least if it's live action. Animated, that
Yeah.
could get a little dodgy.
We've had animated series that have gone for just 1 season, so
Yeah.
live action, definitely. So yeah, it's sad, but they say the fourth and final season has 10 very strong episodes, with Lex Luthor being the main villain of the final season, and they're gonna go out with a bang. So it's an end of an era.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really upset when it ends. The show will always be special to me in
Yeah,
a way that other shows weren't. And it's funny because theoretically I'm an old fan.
yeah.
So it's not like, the Super Friends or the Christopher Reeve films, which were influential to Superman when we were kids.
Hmm.
Or, kids growing up in the 90s had Lois and Clark. That's kind of their touchstone. And kids and teenagers in the early 2000s, they had Smallville. Usually you find that one that's close to your heart and you keep it with you, and this one came kind of later in life, so
Ooh,
that
that
I
is
think that's what
interesting.
separates it.
Yeah, Justin does point out that Krypton only went 2 seasons, but technically, you know, not a Superman. Like, it's not about Superman
Superman
himself.
adjacent.
Yes,
um
which is sad. It only got two
like
seasons because it was really good.
yeah, and guys, come on, it was on Sci-Fi. uh the only way it would have gone worse is if it was on Fox. uh so I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. So it's sad to see Superman and Lois end, but at least we do have knowledge moving into this fourth and final season, that we'll have 10 final episodes to sit back and enjoy, and we'll know that they'll be tight storytelling because they'll be ready to send it off on a big note. So looking forward to it, and we still don't know a release date, but it is looking like it will be at some point in 2024, probably second quarter.
Yeah, probably somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Sadly, not around my birthday, which was getting to be a nice little tradition there.
So there you have it. On the TV side of things, still, sadly, this earlier in the week, just after our last show, we had a knowledge of the announcement that Judy Nugent, who is best known to Superman fans for her role as a young girl who embarks on a heartwarming adventure around the world with Superman in the episode of Adventures of Superman TV series in the 1950s, she passed away at age 83 this past week, which is uh, a good run, but sad to see anybody pass away in the Superman family.
Yeah, it's just that's one of the that's usually considered like one of the favorite episodes
Mm,
uh, of the series, and one of those episodes that kind of proved how good George Reeves was with kids
yep.
on the show, and why a lot of younger viewers at the time kind of looked at him as their dad, because he just had that kind of avuncular nature to him. But yeah, that is sad. Yeah,
Yeah.
when I saw that was in the rundown, I was like, oh,
Yeah, she portrayed a young girl called Anne Carson, who was a visually impaired girl who Superman assisted in helping her regain her sight. The episode was titled Around the World with Superman and originally aired on March 13th, 1954, serving as the finale for season 2, which was the final black and white episode of the syndicated series. So, our condolences to her family and friends. Sad passing of Judy Nugent. All right, let's move into what else do we have? Or let's go into our fan favorite segment of our show before we get into our halftime break. Here is the fan favorite. All right, Michael, what was our fan favorite question from last week?
What is your favorite Supergirl costume? And Alfie Falsatelli? God, I hope that's how you pronounce that. I'm really sorry, Alfie.
I think it's
This is
Falsatelli.
my favorite look for. Yeah, this is my favorite look for Supergirl. Simple, sporty, and not a lot of fabric to get in the way during a fight. I'd also like to commend Steve for correctly pronouncing my last name last time. You wouldn't believe some of the things I've heard. So,
Let's see how Michael went this week, Alfie. Yes, thank you. That's one of the interesting costumes. Probably a little bit skimpy for my liking, especially the skirt. I
yeah,
don't mind the crop top thing, but it's probably too much skin. Not that I'm opposed to female skin, but for a Supergirl character, probably just a little too brief.
well, she's a teenage girl. Well, not this version. That looks more like the Linda Lee
Mm.
uh, version from the second half of Peter David's run. Um, and it worked on the animated series because this is a very overly sexual version of that costume.
Yes, indeed. All right, next up we had JP Rocha who said, my favourite Supergirl costume version is the one from the mid 80s. Let's get physical. Yes, very
Absolutely,
much.
100%. JP Rocha is correct. I love the headband costume.
Oh, wow. Thank you, JP.
Ryan Ignatius Pratt wrote, my favorite Supergirl costume would be the classic one with a red skirt and gold belt, like donned by Helen Slater. While I'm not a fan of the Supergirl movie's story per se, it's a very politic way of putting that, I did think that Helen did well in the part and looked great in the suit, much like Christopher Reeve did for Superman. That said, I'd given an honorable mention to the recent costume donned by Sasha Calle in The Flash. I thought it was quite creative and innovative design, which may sound odd, as I'm not much of a fan of the Henry Cavill suit, which of course bears some similarities to Sasha's suit. It was a great costume, and I
Mm.
love that they put her in a suit and not a skirt.
Yep.
Uh, and it was just, and I really liked her. She was really the best part of that film.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you're a headband suit fan as well?
Oh yeah, hands down, my favorite Supergirl costume is that one, and that has everything to do with the fact that early in me reading comics as like a going concern, I read issues of Crisis, and as drawn by George Perez. Now this is of course Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, praise be his name, drawing it for the merchandise and style guide. But I just I don't know why I like the headband, but I do. It is very 80s.
Yes.
It did not date well, but that would definitely keep the hair out of her face.
True.
So
Very
it's kind of
true.
practical in a way.
Yeah, very good. I was always partial, similar, the red skirt, not necessarily the headband, but this was like the 1958 version of Supergirl with a hyphen in between. But yeah, very much just a Superman costume, except obviously no leggings under the skirt or anything like that. But instead of the red trunks, you had the red skirt.
Yep. That
Yeah,
it's a good
so
drawing too. I
yeah.
can see why you like it.
Yeah, thank you. And you just briefly saw an image here. I had a reply from Alan Carr who said, not sure if I've ever told you of my life with the Big Blue. My grandpa put me on his lap to watch George Reeves on local TV when I was 5 and fell in love. That was 65 years ago. Yes, that means I am 70. And he means more to me now than ever. I'm no traditionalist. I enjoyed the New 52. I want to see my heroes change and grow. I think bringing back the Elseworlds is too long in coming. Don't get me started on the Snyderverse and the Gunnerverse. FYI, love both. And at the time undiagnosed autistic kid, Kal-El was responsible for much of teaching me right and wrong, acting at times as a surrogate father slash uncle. As far as the Superman homepage goes, I discovered it in the mid 90s at work while gold bricking. Anyway, that's the very, very condensed version I wanted to say hi, and I'm happy to make you a bigger part of my super life. The attaches a pic of me waiting, trick-or-treating outside of my apartment in my homemade costume. I want to share that because Alan became a patron through patreon.com/Superman homepage, and I thought it was only fitting that we celebrate some of our supporters here on the show. So thank you, Alan, and one of the older brigade of the Superman fandom.
Yeah. And kind of bucking the trend, liking the newer stuff seemingly as much as the older stuff. And
Yeah,
usually
that doesn't happen.
usually we usually we get to be such, stick in the muds as we get older, and like, get off my lawn. I liked my Superman when he looked like this when I had an onion on my belt, which was a style at the time. So I'm kind of in awe of it, because as much as I I think I've made it very clear on this show, I welcome everybody to the fandom. I'm not going to gatekeep at all, uh, but I definitely have very strong opinions. So so it's nice to see people that are able to be better than me.
Well said. So that was the fan favorite people who sent in. What is our new fan favorite question for this week, Michael?
What is your favorite evil version of Superman? Please just don't write Dean Cain and leave it at that. That we want like real choices and
in story evil
Yeah.
versions of the Superman. So yeah, get involved. The email address is on the bottom of your screen right now. info@supermanhomepage.com. Send in your entries if you want to send photos or images. Great, do that as well. And we will get back to the fan favorite segment to see what you say when we return to this segment next week. So get involved in the fan favorite segment of our show. All right, we're just over the halfway point of tonight's show. We're going to take a quick break, play some messages, and come back on the flip side to do This Week in History, talk about the comic books, and so much more. We'll be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
If you're enjoying Superman Homepage Live, then please like and share this video with your family and friends. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you can click on the bell to receive notifications whenever we post a new video. You can also join our YouTube membership program, just click the join button below. Or you can become a patron and support our website by going to patreon.com/Superman homepage.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Bomer. I'm the voice of Superman and Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Coming from the farthest reaches of the universe to challenge the worst villains on Earth are the most powerful heroes ever in the battle of the Superpowers Collection. Can it be the Supermobile on the attack, the Lexor 7 armed with kryptonite? Will the Supermobile repel those deadly rays?
You bet. Ready for battle. Activate RAM.
New from Kenner's Superpowers Collection. Vehicles and figures with power action, each sold separately. Flying lessons for Penguin, fish bait for Luther. Can the Supermobile defeat the Lexor 7? You decide.
And we're back on Superman Homepage Live, where we're getting into the This Week in History. Here is Michael's intro.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bonds of your earthly confinement, traveling through time and space.
For those of you that use this as your chance to maybe run to the restroom because you're not interested to it, God, I hope you don't have to do too much because there's not much this week. We're starting in 1963 with an imaginary story in Superman number 166 with the Sons of Superman. And, one kid has powers, the other doesn't.
Inspiration for something?
Yeah, one of them named Jor.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying. Jumping all the way to 1983, we have Superman number 392, which it's Vartox. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
A lot of Langs involved. It has to because they had a thing for each other.
Oh, wow.
He was a weird character.
Yeah. Great costume though.
No, yeah, well, when you're inspired by Sean Connery in Zardoz, there you go.
There you go.
Jumping ahead another 20 years, we have 2003, we have Action Comics number 809, getting into the later part of Joe Kelly's run on this book. Kind of a cool cover. A little creepy. I guess it fits. Last Poor Yorick.
Yes.
You knew him, Horatio.
Yes.
Creeping death. We also had the Not Quite Secret Files, Not Quite Who's Who, JLA to Z, number 2, which has Superman on the cover, and a really nice cover. That's a Phil Jimenez image. Justice League Adventures number, and I wrote down 2. That's not right. It's 25. And Superman Birthright number 5. So we're almost halfway through this series. The definitive 21st century origin of Superman version 1.0, because several more would be coming. Exactly. And in 2013 we had Action Comics number 25, which was the 0 year crossover. That was weird. I mean, it was a good issue, but it was still kind of weird. Batman Superman number 5, which getting out of the origin story and into like a weird. I think isn't this one with Jimmy Olsen, like hosting something? I don't quite remember it.
Weird side
I only mentioned it because Superman comes back to this series, Earth 2 number 17. With hey, take note, evil version of Superman. I thought, is that the? Yeah, I guess we're getting into that. I missaw that cover. I guess I wrote that down wrong. Anyways, doesn't matter. Forever Evil number 3, continuing that series where Lex Luthor was one of the main characters, as well as Bizarro. Read that series again and watch how Bizarro's costume keeps changing from panel to panel. It's really weird. And Superman Unchained. This is not the one directed by Quentin Tarantino. It's a completely different version of that. I really wish I had more memories of this series. I need to reread it at some point because I remember liking it at first and ultimately being really disappointed with it. But I don't know if that's because it kept getting delayed.
Yeah, it was very delayed.
In the real world, November 7th, which is tomorrow, is traditionally recognized as the birthday of Martha Kent. And November 11th, which is the end of this week, Callista Flockhart was born in 1964, and she, of course, played Cat Grant on the Supergirl series. And that is all for This Week in History this week.
There you go. Thank you very much for that, Michael. That's a very short week in history as far as the comic book side of things are concerned. We actually had some real dates for the real world, I should say, because last week we had none at all. So there you have it.
Nope.
So
Lots of comics, no real dates.
Yeah. So
kind of like me in high school.
Lots of comics, no dates. Very good.
Yep.
That's I like that joke, Michael. That's I'll have to.
It's good. It's not quite accurate. I hate it much more than. No, thank you. Hero Week. Tip your wait staff. Try the veal. I was a late bloomer. I didn't really start dating heavy until I was like, junior, senior year of high school. So
the love life of Michael Bailey. Tune in, folks, next week when he continues on the saga. Very good. All right, on the comic book side of things, very interesting announcement from DC Comics. DC Compact Comics, $9.99 graphic novels to read anywhere. I saw someone saying, I find it hard enough to read the small print in some of the normal size comic books. How am I going to read these ones? But they're 5 by 5 inch, so 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. Standard book trim for trade paperback novels. The new format pulls best-selling, new reader-friendly titles from DC's evergreen library as the first books offered in this new lineup of compact edition of adult graphic novels. And obviously, Superman, All-Star Superman, is amongst the first to be released.
Yeah, I saw one of the criticisms for this being, if why are they starting with like Watchmen and All-Star Superman and stuff like that? Those are in heavy circulation. Because they're cheaper. They're smaller and they're going into a different format and a different distribution model. Here in the United States, that's basically half, like taking a normal size piece of paper, because it's 8.5 by 11 here. I don't know if A4 is the standard size in Australia. It is in the UK, and the only reason I know this is I work in printing. But Marvel has been doing similar things with their Masterwork series of reprinting their Silver Age books, and they're smaller and cheaper. It's just a way to get into the people's hands. I mean, it's just like that's all there is to it, and they're choosing the books that they think are going to sell. Why would you start a brand new thing trying to get a new audience to read your product, and you put out the stuff that not everyone's familiar with?
Yeah, exactly. One of the big sellers.
And not for nothing, not for nothing, All-Star Superman is an inspiration for the new Superman film. So this just makes sense all around.
Exactly. It's an image that's been seen pretty prominently in recent years in promoting the upcoming new movie. And yeah, it's something that people can just grab, like a novel-sized book that they can put in their bags on their way to work, in their purse or whatever, on the train. It's not going to be something that they're going to be worried about necessarily if they're a collector, getting a bit dog-eared. So it's probably a good idea to make it just a bit more accessible.
Yeah, anytime they want to try a new format, I'm for it. I've been having a lot of conversations with a good friend of mine recently about where I see comics going. And a lot of that is inspired by the fact that I'm not as into the new books as I once was.
Yep.
So when I was heavily invested, then it was really easy for me to say, I want to see this go on forever. And now I'm kind of worried because with all of the rebooting, it's hard to like keep an audience. And now you're constantly chasing new audience while trying to keep some of the one you have. But comics, like all other entertainment, is becoming extremely disposable. So if this is an attempt to like get people to, like you said, grab it and put it in their computer bag or their purse or whatever, and just read it as they go, then I'm all for it.
Exactly. So yeah, Watchmen, Batman, The Court of Owls, All-Star Superman, Fast Sector, Wonder Woman Earth 1, American Vampire Book 1, Batman Hush, Joker, Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens, and Catwoman Trail of the Catwoman, the books that will be an initial run to launch in 2024. And as I said, they'll sell for just under $10. So there you have it. I want to talk to you about the review that you did for the Superman homepage for the return of Superman 30th Anniversary Special, which was published on the site after our last show. Any thoughts since your review has been published on the site?
In the grand tradition of asking forgiveness rather than permission, I did different what I did last time and wrote basically a review for all the stories all at once, and I think that came out better. So on a technical side, it became a lot easier to write. one of the things that I said in the review and has just really kind of just intensified as the week has gone on is how personal this special was. I loved the Death of Superman 30th anniversary special.
Yeah.
The main story was really cool, and it led into Dan Jurgens' backup feature in Action Comics. And the 3 other stories were great, but they were kind of like, standalone. They were all kind of standalone stories, where this was more of, I think, a celebration of this era. The fact that a lot of the narration was by Perry White, who is a character that has kind of gone by the wayside for the most part in recent decades. It was just kind of nice to get back to that. I think it was a good celebration of the different Superman. Little disappointing that Roger Stern didn't come back, but we got to see Jerry Ordway write and draw the Eradicator. So, I mean, it was just like suddenly I'm the Hulk in Endgame. It's like I see this as an absolute win. And I really liked the coloring in the Cyborg story. That it really stood out. And it was just nice. It was fun. I liked the pinups. Thanks to a very, very nice person. I'm actually going to get the John Bogdano cover. So it was kind of cool. They didn't go as overboard with the covers as they did for the Death of Superman. But the fact that they did the die cut with the different homages to the different covers to the original books, it was nice. I was surprised they did it. I was a little worried. I'm like, well, how are they really going to do this? But I think they pulled it off and pulled it together rather well.
And I saw that Dan Jurgens made a comment on your Facebook post.
Yep. Dan Jurgens thanked me for the review. Jerry Ordway shared something I said on Twitter, and Glenn Whitmore, who's colored most of it, also shared the review. Which is really weird. He said, this is an early review. I'm like, I felt like we were kind of late because there were a lot of reviews that came out over the weekend, but we were the most important. So I
100%.
Definitely gonna keep on that. But yeah, I will never, ever, ever get used to or take for granted any of the creators interacting with anything I do on social media.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Well, let's have a look at the comic books that are available this week. Here is, if you're a Superman fan, what you have to look forward to. And there are a lot of trades. So here is what you can... we've done that one. So we can turn that image off if I can find it. There we go. So we've got Fire and Ice, Welcome to Smallville, number 3. And that is available in a number of different variant covers. We are not reviewing this title, but it's set in Smallville. So we thought it's important to let you know about it. The big one is Superman 78, The Metal Curtain, the sequel to the Superman 78 comic book. This is a 6-issue miniseries based on the world of the Superman films, starring Christopher Reeve. And there are a number of variant covers, including a McFarlane Toys action comic version for some reason, a blank version that you can get artwork done on, and some others there, Vad Vibrations, which makes up the background behind me tonight. Also on the trade paperback side of things and hardcovers, we have got DC The New Frontier, the Deluxe Edition hardcover 2023 edition. We have Superman Volume 1 Supercorp hardcover. We have Superman Brainiac 2023 edition trade paperback. Superman Ending Battle 2023 edition trade paperback. And Superman Unchained, the Deluxe Edition, 2023 edition, hardcover.
Ending Battle's odd. Like, I saw that, and I was just like, what about this is it because it's got all the villains in it? I mean, that just seems like a weird one to re-release, but, Ending Battle 2023 edition, but no Volume 2 for the Electric Blue saga. I do not understand how any of this works.
I don't. I mean, is it who the writer was? Is there something in their contract?
Jeff Johns.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is it something about that makes it we've got to keep this in print or reissue it. He needs another check sent his way. What is it?
Well, he's starting up a new comic publishing concern with a bunch of people, so
Some funding.
which is nice to see. But yeah, it's just like I get the Superman Unchanged, Jim Lee.
Yeah.
When your publisher drew it, you are more likely to. Uh, yeah, it's just I don't get it. I mean, I'm not saying it's terrible, and I don't think we should have it, but still.
Don't know if he's still in the comments watching live, but Patrick Asselin, who's a long-time friend of the Superman homepage, another one of our staff members who does lots of stuff for us behind the scenes, especially over on the Facebook side of things. He attended
Yes.
Rhode Island Comic Con this past week and took this photo. He loves to do his dressing up as Tony Stark, a bit of cosplay there. And 5 Superman actors, or Superman, Superboy, Clark Kent, whatever you want to say. Tom Welling there on the left, Brandon Routh, Gerard Christopher in the middle, Dean Cain, and Tyler Hoechlin. What an opportunity.
Yeah, that's must have been an expensive photo.
Saved up for that one, but I saw a few people do that with the 5 actors in the one photo. What a great idea, and what a historic moment to have all of them together at the same time. And Patrick wrote up an article about his experience and taking the photo and the comments that he received from some of the actors. So yeah, well done, Patrick, and thank you for all the work you do for the Superman homepage over so many.
I was very amused to see so many people comparing Brandon Routh's longer hair to the long-haired Superman. That was kind of funny to see kind of pop up. Yeah, I would have paid the money.
Yeah,
I would have definitely paid the money and then gone around and got them all sign it. That's just it's just too much of a good opportunity not to. I'm kind of hoping that happens at Dragon Con next year.
yeah. So well done, Patrick. Thank you again. All right, on the collectible side of things, this Superman fine art print is now available for pre-order. Superman Call to Action fine art print by Sideshow Collectibles. Should ship around December to February. It's $94 US, and you can pre-order it through our website, through our affiliate link. So you can, a good way to support the Superman homepage if you're thinking about buying this fine art print. $94 a little bit steep, but the fine art print.
Yeah,
so
but
just a poster.
But everything that we talk about is expensive, so.
Yeah, so yeah, that one is through our website, so make sure you check that out. There is Tweeterhead released or unveiled a bust that they have coming out. Here is what it looks like. It's a very cool looking 1/3 scale bust. It's a new line of collectible busts that they'll be releasing, and it's half body bust. Picks the Man of Steel from his head to his trunks in an unmistakable comic inspired pose. You'll soon be able to pre-order this one for $300 US, and I guess it's based on its 1/6 scale release, which was a much larger figure, obviously.
Yeah, no, it's. I really like the look of it. The S is a good size. Good face design on it too, and I only say that because I've passed on several Superman action figures recently because I didn't like the face sculpt.
Yeah, no, good point. So yeah, this obviously being a larger figure enables them to get a bit more detail and what have you. So that's a really cool one. We'll let you know when that's available for pre-order. And I saw, it's not in the US or in Australia, but Skechers and DC have teamed up for a range of superhero footwear. I think these are available in places like Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Singapore. So in the Asian region of the world, there are Superman shoes, Batman shoes, Wonder Woman shoes, a whole range of DC sneakers and footwear, and other type of footwear that have different designs and things, prints for superhero fans. So they're really cool.
Yeah, guaranteed they're not in my size. But I have weird feet, so there you go.
There you have it. And also Invicta, they had released watches recently, but there is a whole range. I mean, I couldn't keep up with how many different watches there are of Superman. I mean, they've got Batman and Joker and Wonder Woman and what have you, but there are so many cool. I mean, they look bulky looking, but wow,
Yeah, I was about to say.
these are impressive. Different watch. I mean, this is just a small sample of the huge range of Invicta watches that are available for Superman fans. And again, we have affiliate links on our website. So if you want to pick up yourself a great Superman watch, do it through going to the Superman homepage website.
I like that first one that you showed, that kind of black one. With these types of things, I always like them to be kind of, I don't want to say classy, but just kind of, when they're too colorful, they don't go with everything.
Yeah,
So
bit
that
understated.
kind of has like a, yeah, and I like that it's got kind of like it's got a cable wrapped around it. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So again, head to supermanhomepage.com if you're interested in those. But on the comic book convention side of things, there are a couple of conventions that Superman fans might want to check out this coming weekend. And we have Motor City Comic Con in Novi, Michigan, November 10th to November 12th. Jamal Igle and Alex Segura will be there for all 3 days. At Gallatin Comic Con in Tennessee, November 11 and 12. John Schneider will be there as part of a massive Dukes of Hazzard reunion, but obviously he was part of Smallville, so Smallville fans might want to get a photo or autograph from him. And in Australia, Brisbane Supernova is on from November 11 and 12, and Joshua Orpin, who played Superboy on the Titans TV series, will be there for both days. So that's the conventions that you might want to check out in your vicinity.
That is cool.
Yep.
Very
and don't
good.
forget, the Superman homepage Super Trivia Quiz has been updated for another month, and the 3 questions we're asking you this time around are: what is the title of the final episode of the 1950s Adventures of Superman TV series? What is the title of the final episode of the Smallville TV series? And what is the title of the final episode of Season 1 of the My Adventures with Superman animated series? So if you think you know the answers to all those questions, head to the Superman homepage website, go to supermanhomepage.com/trivia and send your entry in. But that pretty much brings us to the end of tonight's episode. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you once again being co-host of this fabulous show.
Oh, always a pleasure. This is always fun. We're always a little bit of rushing around right beforehand, but once we're settled in, it's nice being part of people's Monday nights.
Yes, exactly. And we do appreciate those fans who tuned in with us live for this past hour. We appreciate your company. Thank you to Patrick, Nostalgic Podblast, Matthew, Justin, Dinah Guy, and so many others who joined with us tonight. Thank you for your company. Michael and I will be back next week on Monday, November 13th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time for another edition of Superman Homepage Live. We hope you'll join us then. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael Bailey. Thanks for watching Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. Good night.